a team, and I have a part to play, very distinctive parts. So, but it doesn't offer me the full range of what I can do musically. So,
Sing a song. Yeah, I was going through some serious stuff, and the show must go on. You got to do your gig and stuff.
At 73, Philip Bailey is finally breaking his silence. For years, rumors have swirled around earth, wind, and fire. Tales of conflict, legal battles, and personal struggles beneath the band's joyful image. Now, with the future of the group uncertain, Bailey is speaking openly.
Have come back to kind of comfort me at times when I really needed them.
Behind the timeless hits were creative clashes, financial disputes, and deep personal sacrifices. Maurice White's quiet health battle shaped it all. Why did the band step back? What led to the royalty fights and trademark wars? Tonight, Philip Bailey reveals the truth behind the music, the story fans were never meant to hear. As earth, wind, and fire dominated the airwaves and packed arenas through the 1970s and into the 1980s, few fans could have imagined that one day the music would fall silent. But inside the band, the pressure of non-stop success was taking a heavy toll. After more than a decade of relentless touring, recording, and media attention, exhaustion was setting in. Personal tensions were also growing. The dynamic that had fueled their creativity was now fraying under the weight of fame.
It's a team, and I have a part to play, very distinctive parts. So, but it doesn't offer me the full range of what I can do musically. So,
around this same time, Maurice White, the visionary founder and driving force behind the band, began quietly battling a far more personal struggle. In the early 1980s, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, a progressive neurological disorder that would slowly rob him of his ability to perform. For a leader so deeply involved in every aspect of the band's sound and identity, the diagnosis was devastating. At first, Maurice kept his illness private, determined not to let it define him or derail the band's momentum. But the symptoms worsened, making it harder to tour, record, and lead with the same energy. In 1984, the band entered its first major hiatus. Officially, they called it a break, but inside there were doubts about whether earth, wind, and fire would ever fully return. Fans waited, hoping for new music, but years passed with little word. When the group finally reunited in 1987, the chemistry had changed. Maurice took a step back from live performances, focusing more on production and songwriting, while Philip Bailey and other members moved forward in the spotlight. The band found new life, but an undercurrent of uncertainty remained. As musical tastes shifted in the 1990s, and with Maurice's health in steady decline, the future of earth, wind, and fire was never fully secure. Members pursued solo projects. Legal and financial issues simmered beneath the surface. Fans still adored the band, but within its ranks, there were constant questions. Could the magic be sustained? Should it be? How long could they go on without their founding leader at the helm? For much of the next 2 decades, earth, wind, and fire walked a delicate line between honoring their extraordinary past and navigating an increasingly fragile future. Maurice White was not just the founder of Earth, Wind, and Fire. He was its heart, its architect, and its driving force. From the very beginning, Maurice had a clear vision of what the band could be. He wasn't interested in simply making hit records. He wanted to create something larger, a fusion of soul, funk, jazz, gospel, and African rhythms, wrapped in messages of hope and spirituality. To achieve that, he maintained a level of perfectionism that few others in the industry could match. Every element of the band's sound was meticulously crafted under Maurice's guidance. He was deeply involved in songwriting, arrangements, production, and even the visual aesthetic of the group. Nothing was left to chance. From the soaring horn sections to the layered vocal harmonies to the cosmic imagery that defined their stage shows. His demand for excellence pushed the band to new creative heights. resulting in some of the most iconic and timeless music of the 1970s and 80s. But that same perfectionism also came with a cost. Maurice's control over the creative process sometimes left little room for other voices to be heard. Band members respected his genius, but over time, some began to feel stifled. There was tension between the need to uphold Maurice's vision and the desire for individual artistic expression. For members like Philip Bailey, who was growing into a formidable talent in his own right, balancing loyalty to the band with personal growth became increasingly challenging. Many in the band described Maurice as a brilliant but demanding leader. He expected everyone to operate at the highest level at all times. Rehearsals were intense. Studio sessions could stretch for hours as Maurice chased the perfect take. While this pursuit of excellence produced extraordinary results, it also led to moments of friction. Not everyone agreed with every decision, and as the years went on, the weight of maintaining such a high standard took its toll. Yet despite the tensions, there was deep respect. Most band members understood that without Maurice's vision and relentless drive, Earth, Wind and Fire would not have become the global phenomenon it was. His leadership had brought them to the top of the world, but as the band evolved, finding a new balance between creative control and collaboration became one of its greatest internal challenges. While Earth, Wind and Fire was thriving in the public eye, with hit after hit and sold-out tours worldwide, the financial picture behind the scenes was far more complicated and often deeply unfair. At the core of the issue was how money was distributed within the band. Like many groups led by a strong founder, Earth, Wind and Fire was structured around Maurice White's leadership and vision. As a result, Maurice held a larger share of publishing rights, production credits, and overall control of the band's financial decisions. For other members, including longtime contributors to the band's sound and success, this structure gradually became a source of tension. Many band members were paid as salaried musicians or received smaller royalty percentages, even though they had helped shape some of the most iconic songs and performances. Over time, as Earth, Wind and Fire's global fame grew, so did the disparities in income. Some members became frustrated that their contributions were not reflected in the band's financial rewards. The situation wasn't always openly discussed. Out of loyalty to Maurice and love for the music, many members stayed quiet, at least in public. But behind closed doors, feelings of resentment built. Tours brought in millions of dollars. Merchandise sold in huge numbers, and the band's catalog remained a cash cow. Yet, not everyone was benefiting equally. For Philip Bailey and others who began pursuing solo careers, financial independence became another motivation. The reality was clear. Staying in the band meant limited control over one's earnings, while solo projects offered new opportunities to take ownership of their work. These disparities, though rarely spoken of directly, remained an undercurrent in the group's internal relationships for years, one of many invisible strains that complicated the band's legendary success.
So, since the 80s, I've had to do other things to just kind of balance things.
Bailey's solo aspirations and Maurice White's response reel sound clip. As Earth, Wind and Fire reached the peak of its fame, Philip Bailey began to feel the urge to explore his own creative voice. While proud of what the band had achieved, he wanted to express himself beyond its signature sound. In the early 1980s, Bailey started pursuing solo projects, eventually finding major success with hits like Easy Lover alongside Phil Collins. Maurice White had mixed feelings about this. He respected Bailey's talent, but worried that solo work might pull focus away from the band's unity. Maurice had always seen Earth, Wind and Fire as a cohesive group, and solo ambitions posed a quiet threat to that vision. Though there was no open conflict, tension grew behind the scenes. Bailey faced the difficult task of balancing loyalty to the band with his personal growth. In time, He managed to juggle both careers, but the shift highlighted a new reality. Earth, Wind & Fire was no longer a single, unified path. Its members were evolving in different directions. Lawsuit over unpaid royalties to producer's estate. Even after the music had left the charts and the band members had moved on to different projects, the business of Earth, Wind & Fire was far from over. In recent years, legal battles have surfaced that reveal just how complicated the band's financial legacy has become. One of the most notable cases involves a lawsuit filed by the estate of a former producer who claimed that royalties owed to them were never fully paid. The dispute centers on the royalties generated by some of the band's biggest hits, songs that still earn revenue through radio play, streaming, and licensing. According to the lawsuit, certain payments that should have been made to the producer's estate were withheld or mishandled over the years. The case brought renewed attention to the band's internal business dealings, with Philip Bailey and other members caught in the middle of a legal fight they never expected to face. For Bailey and his fellow musicians, the lawsuit was a painful reminder that even decades after the music was made, financial conflicts can still cast a long shadow. The battle over royalties not only stirred up old tensions, but also raised difficult questions about how the profits from Earth, Wind & Fire's enduring success were being shared, and who truly deserved a piece of that legacy. Behind the bright stage lights and timeless music, Maurice White was fighting a battle that few fans knew about. In the early 1980s, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, a progressive illness that slowly took away his ability to perform. At first, Maurice kept his condition private, determined not to let it define him or derail the band. As the disease advanced, it became harder for him to tour and record. He gradually stepped back from live performances, focusing instead on producing and writing behind the scenes. For someone as passionate and driven as Maurice, this was an incredibly difficult transition. Those closest to him watched with quiet heartbreak as the man who had once led every performance with unmatched energy and vision was forced to adapt to life in the shadows. Yet through it all, Maurice remained a guiding force for Earth, Wind & Fire, continuing to shape the band's sound and spirit even as his physical strength faded.
Now to some sad news tonight about a member of the band that had us grooving for decades.
To this day, his legacy is felt in every note the band plays, a powerful reminder of resilience, vision, and the quiet strength it takes to keep going when the spotlight begins to dim.